What's good, guys? So in this video we're going to be making an app in FlutterFlow using Google Sheets, and in this specific tutorial we are going to be building a job market. So think of something like Upwork, something like Fiverr, something like Freelancer, and this is the architecture here. We have a job categories. This is going to be a view here. Once you go into the category, you're going to see offers. This is the same thing as jobs. So offer categories, job categories. And then you can click and you can see an offer detail. You can also add it to cart. We are going to have a cart view, which is essentially a list of offers. So if I want to purchase not just one offer, a couple of offers, I can do that. And then I have a checkout. And we're also going to have a profile view here, profile page, where it's going to list some information about the user, their email, etc., which is very standard for people that need to log in. And here we have kind of the data structure, okay? So we have the offer category entity here, and this is gonna talk about the category, the type of category the offer falls into. We're gonna have the offer ID, which is the row ID, the type of offer, the image of the offer, the description, maybe the number of offers for this specific category, and maybe a cumulative earnings for all the offers in this specific category. And then we have the offer entity. And so first we have the person who is responsible for the offer, okay? Because offers are, right, they're linked to people. It's people that are presenting offers. So we have person name, person country, image, rating, then followed by the offer ID, offer type, offer description, and cumulative earnings as well. Now, how does Google Sheet work as a database, and why are we going to be using Google Sheets, okay? So the way this is going to work is we're going to have our Flutter app. It's going to be talking to an official Google Sheets REST API. So we're not going to be using any third-party services. We are going to be dealing with Google on an official level. Okay, so this is the best way of doing it because you know who you're working with, right? You know that the service is always going to work. It's always going to be up. It's always going to give the data. And this service, via the service, which is a really nice service, we're going to be talking to Google Sheets that we have in our possession. We created these sheets, but we need to talk to them through this REST API, and this is what we're going to be building. Now, the first thing that you need to do is you need to start with the database. Okay, always start with the database. So here I have Google Sheets. I have two sheets in the spreadsheet. The first one is offer categories, followed by offer list, which is essentially a list of offers. So this is offer categories. We have 4 columns, 4 fields. We have the row ID, we have the offer type, the offer image, and the offer description. Okay, so what is the row ID? The row ID is simply, if you just type row like this, you're gonna get the number of the row you're in. And we need that because we may have a row ID, but we need to pull in a specific offers in that category. This is the same thing as a category ID because this is essentially a sheet of categories. So the way you generate it is by doing this formula here, and then you simply drag it down, and it's simply a replica of what you see here. That's really all it is. The next sheet we have is offer list. Once again, we have the row ID, which is this row formula, this row function. And then we have, 5 other categories. So we have the category ID for this one, for this sheet here. We have the person name, person country, person rating, and the offer description, okay? We're just going to simplify it and not have like a million fields here, okay? So the row ID is self-explanatory. It's basically a replica of what you see here. The category ID is the category that this offer is related to. So for instance, when it says 444, you go back here, you find row ID, it's marketing services. So these 3 offers from Michael Murphy, James Michaels, and George Bill are in the marketing category. Then we have 2 offers in the category number 3, 3 offers in category number 5, and then the final offer in category 2. And so it's the same thing, right? 3 is Flutter development, number 5 is dictation. So that's how you kind of deal with it. We have the person country, we have the rating, and the offer description. So we only have 2 sheets here, and you can have as many as you want, obviously, but just to kind of explain to you how this works, we're gonna, start, from nice and simple. We're gonna have two sheets. And now that we created our spreadsheet, we have the data here. The next thing you guys wanna do is you wanna click on share, and you wanna make sure you have it, anyone with the link. You wanna make sure the spreadsheet is public, okay? Because we need to access it, so it needs to be publicly available, okay? Now, the next thing that you wanna do is you wanna Google for develop Google Sheets solutions. You just wanna Google for something like this. And you're gonna be on a page that's targeted for developers who want to interface with various Google products, okay? So we have, Google Calendar, Chat, Docs, etc. So you can write apps that interface with any of these products, okay? In today's video, we're talking about Sheets, so that's why you can click on Sheets right here, open it up, and then you have overview, etc., and you wanna click on Sheets API. Okay, and it kind of tells you about it, etc., etc. You can basically, using this Sheets API, you can read, write, format Google Sheets. You can do anything that you can do manually. That's why it's super powerful, and it's a really, really great API that you really are doing yourself a favor, a service, by kind of understanding it, because you can do so many great things. And it's great being able to access and to manipulate Google Sheets data, because everybody has Google Sheets. It's a great way. Now, the next thing that you want to do is you want to go into reference, and you have various things that you can do. So for instance, you have the spreadsheets scope, right? If you open it up, you're going to see this is where you can create spreadsheets. You're not accessing a specific sheet inside a spreadsheet. You're accessing just various spreadsheets. So if you need to create a bunch of spreadsheets, you can do it. You can update them. You have batch update, create, get, etc. We're not going to be using this. We're not going to be using this. Then you have sheets. We're not going to be creating and deleting sheets. The one that you want to be focusing on is right here, the spreadsheets.values, because this is where you're working with specific data. In other words, you're not creating entire sheets. You're not creating entire spreadsheets or sheets inside a spreadsheet. You're working with rows and columns and cells. You're working with data, and this is what you can do. You can append data, you can clear data, you can clear by specific data filter, you can get data, you can get by data filter, meaning you can get it by a specific filter. You can update, and then you can update by data filter. You can clear, meaning delete, remove the data, and then you can get data and update data. So you can do a lot of interesting things here. You can do a lot of interesting stuff. And you can even try it here. You can start working with it, right? This is kind of how you access it. It gives you this request, right? This is the way you access it. You just have to specify your spreadsheet ID and then arrange, and then you can specify requests. So like append, or if you want to do, batch get, you want to get a lot of data. This is kind of the request. It's all here. It's all available. And you can also try it here, right? If you want to do a batch get, or if you want to just get, specific, right? You can kind of do it here. So for instance, let me show you how this works. If I click on get, I need to, I have this thing that I can, I have this kind of playground where I can fill out these fields, and I can send that data, and we can get data back. So let's try it right now. It needs a spreadsheet ID. So you go back to our spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet ID is in the URL. This is the ID here. We're going to copy it. We're going to go back to our thing, our playground. We're going to paste it. Now we need the range. Okay, so the range is, let's say we want to access this spreadsheet right here, this one right here, and we want, let's say A through D. Okay, we're going to go back here, and we're going to say A, D. That's going to give us everything, the whole column of A, the column A up to column D. Of course, if you just want that, you want 10 elements, you can do A, 10, D, 10. But let's say you want the whole spreadsheet, everything A to D. That's how you do it. Then now you have a bunch of optional parameters. You have date time render, how you want to render date time. Then you have the major dimension. This is important. That's how you want to get the data. Do you want to get it in terms of rows or columns? Then you have value render, you can format. So these are optional. We don't really need that. And now you have your Google Auth, you have your API key that you don't have to worry about just yet. So if we execute it, you're going to have a prompt that's going to ask you to log in, and I'm going to get into my account. That's going to get permission. And now that we have permission, this is the data we're getting. So as you can see, Our major dimension is rows. That means we're getting it by rows. Okay, so as you can see, the first row is the header. So row ID, offer type, offer image, right? If you go back here, row ID, offer type, offer image, we're getting it by rows. So if we specify, if we leave this, by default, it's going to be rows, meaning that we're going to get an array of rows, which is kind of what we want in this example, because our records are as rows, right? If we split this the other way, meaning if we have row ID, offer type on this side, and then we have something else on this side, then we're going to have as columns. But typically, when you're going to be storing records, you want your fields as column headers and the records as rows. That's kind of what you want. So now we have 10 rows. And if you go back here, if you scroll up, you have your major dimension as rows, which is kind of what the default is, right? Major dimension as rows. And this is kind of what we're getting, right? We're getting our headers here, and then we have our records. And now we can easily implement that. We can manipulate that. We can parse that inside our FlutterFlow. Very, very easy. And we can do clear. So if you go into clear, let's say we want to clear a row, we're going to specify our spreadsheet ID, and let's say we want to clear the last row. Okay, so let's say this number 10. We can select it, and as you can see, we're getting this range here. So we can just copy it, makes it easier. We can come back here, and we can paste it in here. And now when we execute it, it should delete that last row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it. That way I can paste it because we need that last row. And now let's execute it. All right, so now we have 200, the response status code, which means it's a success. We don't have that last row. It's gone. It has been deleted. So I'm going to paste it back. Okay. So as you can see, it's very, very intuitive. We can do a batch update. So if you click on batch update, you can kind of see this is a little bit more involved, right? We need the spreadsheet ID, which is where you paste it in here, you copy it right here, then you pasted it. But this is a little bit more involved. We have the request body, and here you can kind of build your request. You can put data, you can add an item, you can do it in here, you can specify major dimension, range, and you can even specify value. So let's say I want range, and I can specify the range. Then I can also specify values, add an item, etc. Add an item. I can specify the values that I want to update. So there's a lot of interesting things that you can do if we're doing updates, if we're doing deletes. It's all very, very intuitive. It's all very, very easily done. So we're not gonna work on this right now. We can also do update. We can clear, batch clear instead of just regular clear, which means you can clear big parts of the spreadsheet. You can clear, for instance, from here to here, right? You can clear from 3 to 9, or you can clear this, and it gives you this range, this name box, right? You can just come in here and you can copy it if you're working with it, just for testing, obviously, just so that you understand how this works. All right. So there's lots of things that you can do. Now that we understand how it works, now that we kind of understand everything, we can start building the app. Now, before we can actually go out and build the app, we need to make sure our app can access the spreadsheet, because here it's different, right? We're inside of Google, it's already built in. But for us to access it from another app, we need to do something important. And for that, you need to go to console.google.cloud.google.com. You can just Google for Google Cloud, which is an important thing for you. So if you've never been here before, this is a good idea. You want to click here, and I already have a project. You can create a new project. Once you create a new project, you're going to have this project here. What you want to do is you want to go to Enable API and Services, and then you want to hit plus, and then you want to search for Google Sheets. So if I type Google Sheets here, Google Sheets API, you want to enable it. If I click on that, I already have this enabled. This thing here for you would say enable. For me, it says manage. The next thing you want to do is you want to click on this navigation menu, go to API and Services, and go to Credentials. And this is where you need to create your key. So if you click on Create Credentials, you can choose API key. I already have an API key that I created, and we're going to need this API key in order to access Google Sheets from outside of Google, so like from our FlutterFlow app, okay? So now that we've done everything here, you have your key, you can show key, and you can copy it. Now let's go into FlutterFlow and actually build this app. All right, so we're gonna create a new app here, and I'm just gonna start a blank app. I'm gonna call it Google Sheets. We're gonna say create new. And we can set up Firebase for that if we want, but what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna use Firebase here. We're just gonna start building right off the top. Now, what do we want to build? If we go back here, we have our categories, we have offers, we have offer detail, and we have cart, checkout, etc. So let's start with these ones. Let's start with categories, offers, and offer detail, all right? So if we go back to our app and we go to the pages, we have our home page, it's kind of blank. But what if we can find a template that's going to be a lot more conducive to kind of what we want? So we're going to say a new page, and I'm going to call this offer categories, okay? And what I want to do is I want to go to lists, and I want to take a look. So how about this one? This is categories right here. So I'm going to say use my theme, and now we have nice categories here. Now it has men, women, and kids. If we go to the widget tree, you can see that this is basically tabs, right? It's a tab bar page, scroll down, another tab bar page. This is a tab bar, okay? We have a column, and then we have a search bar, and then we have a tab bar, okay? So we're going to keep it simple. We're going to remove the tabs, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to come here. We're going to delete this tab bar here so that we have this basic thing. We still have this tab bar here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this column, okay? And I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say that I want to wrap this widget in a list view, inside a list view. I'm going to say wrap widget, and I'm going to say list view. And now it's inside a list view. Now we can drag it out, and we're going to put it right here. Okay? All right? And now it's outside the tab. We still have that tab somewhere. We can delete it because it doesn't even have anything. And now we have our categories, okay? We have our categories. Now we can actually start populating it with the data that we want. So the first thing that we need to do is this is basically a list of containers. So we want to remove this container. We're going to delete all of these containers here, okay? Because this is a list view, so we want it to replicate kind of by itself, okay? We're going to delete this container. We have this search bar here. We can put it above, okay? We can keep it above. And now what we want to do is we want to go to the list view, and we want this thing to replicate automatically. But before we can do that, we need to configure our API calls, because what typically you're going to be doing is you're going to do a backend query, and then you're going to be querying a collection, or you're going to be doing an API call. We don't have anything like that. So let's go and create our API call. We're going to add an API call. API call is going to be get categories. We're going to be doing a get method, and this is going to be the API URL. We're going to go back here, and this is the URL. So if you want to get, it tells us the URL right here. We just paste that, come back here, paste it here. We need the spreadsheet ID. Let's get the spreadsheet ID here, paste it in between. Now we need the range, okay? So if we come back here, and so these are the path parameters, meaning they need to be part of the path. We also have the query parameters, but these are optional. And then we have a bunch of other things. And so we're going to go back, and we're going to see what do we want to get. We want to get everything. So we want to get A through D. We're going to go back to our app, and we're going to specify, let's say, A through D, okay? Now, we also need to make sure that we're passing our header, because even though the spreadsheet is public, in order to access it using the Google Sheets API, we need to pass our key that we created right here. Remember, I have this Google Sheets API key that I talked about how to create it. If we go to this page here, and then you go into authorized requests, here you can kind of read about what kind of key you need. I already told you what kind of key you need. And if you scroll down, it says here, after you have an API key, your application can append the query key to all your request URLs. So this becomes a query string. It's not a path URL. So you can copy that, go back to your app, add it as a query parameter. You're going to say key, and here you're going to say string. And this is going to be the default value, which is what we want, right? The default value, kind of what we're going to be passing. And then I can go and get my key here, paste it here, and now I can say add call, okay? So now if we go to response and test, we can paste our key here, and it's going to automatically append it as a query string. So let's do a test API call. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's do a test API call, and we get a 200 success, and we're getting major dimension as rows, which means that the values, it's an array of rows. So the first row is the header row, and then we have all the other. This is kind of what we want, because we can easily parse it inside our app and get the data that we want, because we want it to be an array of values, right? And so this JSON path name, very, very important. If you don't know what JSON path is, you can Google it, because me talking about it right now is going to make the video too long. But essentially, you can create a custom, and we only want values, right? So you can just put dot values, and this is going to be give you, and this right here is going to give you an array of rows, which is exactly what you want. This is only for testing, okay? So we're going to say save call. And now what we want to do is we want to go back to our page here. You want to click on offer categories, the top of the page, and you want to make sure we are running that query. We're going to come in here and we're going to say API call, get categories. You're going to say confirm. Next, you are going to go to list view, and you're going to come in here, generate dynamic children. We're just going to call them items. I always call them items just to keep things simple. We're going to click here, and we're going to say get categories response. Remember, in the response, we're getting an array. We do not want an array. We want a list of elements, okay? It's almost the same, but it's a little bit different. We're going to say JSON body. We're going to say JSON path. And here is where we can get the values that we need. Remember, when we were testing the API call, we only wanted to get values. So that's what we want to do. We want to just do values here, okay? We're going to say confirm, okay? Now we are getting a list of values. We're going to say, well, make sure you have confirm here. And now we're getting a list of values, okay? Next, you can go to your column. You can go over here, and you can you have your text. You can rename it to something else. All of this is going to get repeated. Actually, you may not want to have the text here. Maybe you want the text to be right here. Maybe right here somewhere as above all this, or maybe even below. You probably only want to repeat this. Now, this one here, right? We have a container, this container, and then we have a row with two elements. You can have a column. So for instance, you can wrap this inside a column, right click, wrap widget. We want to wrap it inside a column. And now you can have a text, but you can duplicate it. And now you can have two text, right? Which is kind of what you do if you want to have one text above the other. So we have two texts. And now you can set it from a variable, right? We're going to say set from variable. We're going to say items. And here, you can say JSON path inside the item, okay? Inside the item. And the thing is here is that, remember, if you come back here, remember, so if you want to do get, and we just want to get, A through D, this just to show you how the request looks like. This is the response we're getting. So if you want to display the offer type, you need to get the second element inside here. This is the first element. This is the second element. So now you need to be careful here, right? So if we go back here, let's say we want this to be the offer type, okay? The offer type. We want to get, what do we want to get? We want to get the second element, okay? So that means you got to go back here, and you want to specify as the second element. It starts from 0. So if you put 0 inside square brackets, is going to be the first element, 1 is the second element. We're going to hit confirm. This might be, the second element, or the third element in this case. So if we come in here, we have the URL, we have the type, what is this? The description. So let's list the description. This is going to be the fourth element. So that's going to be 3 inside the angle brackets, right? I'm going to set from variable, items. We're going to come in here, JSON path. We're going to do 3. Okay, now let's make sure all of this works. Okay, we've done a lot of things. A lot of things are happening. Let's make sure it works, okay? And so now if you run the app, you can see that every one of these containers, container 1, container 2, is in another row. Except, of course, the first container is we're getting the header, right? So if you come in here, we are getting this header row. Okay, and then in the subsequent containers and the subsequent elements, we're getting the subsequent rows. And so in order to fix that, we need to specify a better range. So instead of specifying A through D, we need to specify something like A2 D10, something like this, meaning that we want to start from A2. So we can specify something like A2 D10. So let's go back and make that change. Comment here, we're going to go back to offer categories. In fact, we want to go to the API call here, and we want to go all the way there, and we want to show A2 D10, meaning like we want to start from the second row to the 10 row of the AD columns. Okay, so we're going to say save call. And now all we need to do is restart the app, run it again, and that will hopefully skip that first row, which is the header row. All right, so here's the new app, and as you can see, we're no longer displaying the header row. Okay, we got the images here, and we have the name of the offer types, and we can also fix the image as well. We can come back here to our app, go back here, and make sure we're displaying the image correctly. And the image is, which row is that? Is that 0, 1, 2 is in the third column or the second index? So we can come in here. We can set path from variable. We can say items. We can say JSON path, and this is going to be 2. Confirm. And now it's going to be 2, just like this is the second row, the third row, the fourth row, and this is going to be the third row. Okay, so if you run it, same thing is going to happen. All right, so there we have. Now we have slightly different images that I have. I just picked out them at random just to show you an example. Okay. Now that we have this page working, it's going to be very, very straightforward to create the other pages. And let's create a couple of more pages just to show you how this works. If you go back to our diagram, we have offers and we have offer details. So let's create an offer page and an offer detail page just to kind of show you guys how it works. Let's go back here. And what we can do is we can simply duplicate this page. The next page is going to be an offer list. Let's go ahead and duplicate it. Let's just call it a offer list. This is no longer categories. We have offer list. I can just change this to list. Okay, and now what we want to do is we want to create another API call so that we can get at the second sheet. Remember, we have offer list here now. So for that, we can go back to our app. We can go to API. We want to go here and we want to copy this URL here. We're going to say save call. We want to add another API. We're going to say get offer list. Get. Everything is the same except we need to specify the sheet now. If we don't specify the sheet, just the range, it's going to get the first sheet. But here we have offer list. So we're going to go back here and we're going to say offer list, exclamation mark, followed by the range. Everything else is the same. Query parameters, key, string. What was our key again? I didn't save it. Let's copy it right here. Copy this key. Let's go back, paste it right here, add call. And we can go to offer list, get offer list, response and test, paste the key, and let's test our call. And again, we're getting the right stuff. It's 200 is success. And we are getting our rows. Okay, so here are our rows. And in this case, we're sending A2 to D10. Is that what we want? Because we just copied the whole thing. Copy it. It's A2 F10 because we have 2 more columns. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. A2 F10. I'm going to say save call, get offer list, response, test API. Now we're going to get more columns. Okay, and so here we're getting all the rows. We're getting all the data. This time we're getting two more columns, 2 more fields. So we have 2, 4, etc., 3, 4, etc. We're getting the data, and then we can kind of mess around with the path name like we did before. We can just save call. Now let's go back to our app, and let's first make sure that this offer categories is going to have an action that's going to redirect it to the second page. And we're going to be passing the category ID, which is the row ID here, right? So if we come in here, is this row ID here. Okay, so every element, every data point has as its first field the row ID. So we're gonna come in here, we're gonna create an action, add an action. We're gonna say navigation, navigate to offer list, and we're gonna pass category ID. I'm just gonna say cat ID. Type is gonna be a number, an integer. We're going to say confirm, and then we can actually pass it. And how are we going to pass it? Cat ID, we're going to say from variable, And now we need to get the right variable. It's going to be items, and we need to do a JSON path, and we're going to say 0. Because the first element, remember, we are using 1, 2, and 3. 0 is the row ID, and we're going to say confirm. And now we're going to be passing the cat ID. And here we can go to the offer list. We already have the variable. We get the cat ID that we're passing, and now we can actually list the stuff by the cat ID. We're going to say list for, and whatever cat ID that we have, or we can say offer list. Okay, now we have the offer list in that specific category, offer list. Now here on the second page, what we need to do is we need to filter to only show the offers that were passed as a parameter from the offer category. So let me show you. So here's the spreadsheet. If I click on marketing services, which is category row ID 4, and I go to the second page, I only want to see these 3 offers. I don't want to see everything. So we need to filter it. So if we go back here, we're on this page now. Here we are. What you guys want to do is you want to go to offer list, and you want to do an API call. You want to switch from get categories to get offer list, right? Because we duplicated the page. Next, we have the list view, and the list view is the same. We have the items, we're getting the items. But the trick here is that if you're doing something like a query collection, you have a filter built into FlutterFlow. But if you're doing an API call, you don't have a filtering built in. So we need to be a little creative. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to go to list view, and list view is basically a collection of columns. That is what we're repeating. We're going to go to column, and we're going to create a conditional visibility. We're only going to show columns that match a certain condition. So we're going to set conditional visibility, and we're going to come in here. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that the cat ID, and this is the argument that we're passing from the first page, matches something inside one of these elements that we have here. So we're going to do condition. We're going to say cat ID, confirm. Second value is going to be a from variable. And we are going to say items. The items that we're going through, the items that we are listing here, we're going to go to items. And we're going to say JSON path, and we're going to say 0, 1. Okay, because we want to match this column. This column we don't want to match. We want to match the ID that we're passing, the cat ID here, to this column. This is 0, this is 1. Okay, we want to match it here. So we're going to go back here. 1, confirm, confirm. And now we have cat ID matches. Cat ID is the variable we passed from the first page. Matches whatever is in the second column of that record, of the row, which means we're only going to see. So let's also configure different things here. So we also have these two text fields that are one above the other because they're in the columns, they're kind of vertically. And what do we want to show? Well, we want to show the person name, and person name may be below, but we want the offer description. Okay, so offer description and then the person name. So offer description is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5. And person name is 2. So 5 and 2. I'm going to go back here. This is going to be 5. Let's put that to 5. And this is going to be 2. We can also make it a little bit smaller font, just so that it kind of, you know, because the name is not the focus right now. The focus is the offer description. We're going to have in here. So we have 5 and 2. We also have the image, but I think the image is, we don't have any images. So we're not going to touch the image. We can have the image of the person. But, you know, you guys can do that on your own. It's very simple. You just, you know, all you have to do is create another row here. Image, this is going to be 6. And then back here, you can just specify $6. So we don't have any image. And so I'm going to leave that as blank. And now let's see if the filtering works. The key here is the filtering. So let's run the app. All right, so here we are on the categories page. And if you recall, we have a bunch of marketing offers. We have 3 marketing offers. We have 2, what is that? 2 Flutter development offers. And then we have a bunch of other offers. So let's try if it works. Let's try marketing offers. And we get 3 marketing offers, right? Michael Murphy, James Michaels, and George Bill. If we go back here, we have Michael Murphy, James Michaels, and George Bill. We also have 2 Flutter development offers. So let's go back. And let's try Flutter development. We have 2 offers here. So it's filtering perfectly. And we can also try, what else do we have? We also have 2 or 3, number 5, which is dictation offer. So let's go back here. Let's try dictation. And we have 3 offers here as well, as you can see. And so this is working perfectly. Let's create one last page just to show you the details. But this is going to be very, very simple to do. Let's go back here. Let's create a new page. This is going to be our detail page. I'm just going to say offer detail. And let's get a template content. I think, yeah, I like this one. Use template. And now we have our content. Okay, so you can add to cart, etc., etc. Now, once we have the page here, we need to make sure that we are passing the navigation works and we're passing various variables from this offer list. So what we want to do is we want to go to list view. We're going to start from the column and we're going to add an action. Okay, the action is going to be navigate to offer detail. And we're going to pass a bunch of parameters. There's a bunch of ways of doing it. We can pass the offer ID, then look it up, then get all the data. But I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to pass the parameters that we need in order to populate the page. And so what are we going to be passing? The person name, country, rating, and the description. So this is 0, 1, 2. This is 2, 3, 4, 5. So 2 through 5. Of the row we're going to be passing. So name, country, rating, and description. So we're going to come here and we're going to define our parameters. So we're going to add a parameter. It's going to be person name. This is going to be a string. Add a parameter. This is going to be a person country. This is going to be a string. Add a parameter. This is going to be a person. What else do we have there? Rating and description. Person rating. And this is going to be a double and a description, offer description. And this is going to be a string. We're going to say confirm. And now that page expects those variables. Now it's time to pass. We're going to say person name is going to be from variable. It's going to be items item, JSON path, and I believe it is 2, 0, 1, 2, 2 through 5. Okay, so 2 through 5, 2. We're going to say another parameter, pass, person country, same thing, from variable. And we're going to say item, JSON path. This is 3. I'm going to say pass, person rating. It's going to be from variable. This is going to be items, JSON path. And this is 4. And last but not least, offer description from variable, items, JSON path. And this is 5. Okay, now we have 4 variables we're passing. We can go to this page and we can actually list them. So this could be the person name, this could be description, and this, and then we can have, this could be the rating maybe. So let's have a rating. And in fact, for rating, I believe we have a really nice widget we can use. Let's take a look. Actually, right here, we can search for it, rating. There it is, rating bar. Okay, so perfect. We can delete this. Now we can also center it perfectly. And this is going to be a rating that we can essentially come to rating bar and we can have the initial rating. Okay, so basically it's going to show them they can rate it themselves, how they want to rate it. Item count, we have 5 items and we can actually rate it ourselves. We could set the rating. So let's do a class name is going to be the person. So we have person name. This is going to be description, offer description. We're going to have the rating, person rating, and maybe the country themselves, the country as well. So let's say person name here. I'm going to add another, this is a row here. Why don't we wrap it? Yeah, row is fine. I'm going to add another field here. And this is going to be text, some kind of a text field. And I'm just going to have the name of the country. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And let's do a name of the country, person country. So this is the country name, their country, the rating, the description. And, you can replace it or delete it. You can delete all of these cards. And this could be add to cart. There we have it. And yeah, we can delete them. Let's go to this top friends. Let's delete all that. And now we have this. And now let's also do this while we're here. This thing is going to go back, navigate back. So it's already done. All right, so let's see if it works. Let's see if it works. All right, so here's the app. We have categories. We should probably remove this right here because that's the initial page. We marketing services. We want Michael Murphy. And there we go. Michael Murphy is a 5 out of 5. You ask, let's go back here. Is he really 5 out of 5? Michael, 4.8. Yeah, close enough. Let's go back. And let's say I want George Bill. Let's take a look at George Bill here. George Bill is 3. So that should be 3 stars. And it's 3 stars here. And you can add the card, etc. Or we can go back and we want to do dictation. We want Nick Nicholas, 5 out of 5. LT. Nick Nicholas is 5. Perfect. Do we have anybody lower? We have 3.5. Ready Kane. Let's do that. Let's pick him. There we go. 3.5. Yeah, it gets rounded up to, so it becomes 4 out of 5 there. Add to card, etc. We can change the image to their profile. And then you can build all the other functionality. I did an add to cart functionality in one of the previous videos. You can easily build it out by storing it as part of the local store. And you can kind of do all the other functionality that we talked about here, profile with the authentication, everything like that. But really the purpose of this video was to show you how you can integrate with Google Sheets directly without using any kind of third-party service, any intermediaries, just going directly and working with them. So I really hope you found this video valuable. If you want to view and clone this specific app that I just built, you can do so from my Patreon page that you can find in the description below. And definitely I would appreciate you signing up and supporting me as well. And so if you like this video, smash a like button, leave a comment below, and do not forget to subscribe to this channel if you want to see more similar no-code content. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you real soon.